Welcome to PNN KXU, Po People's Revolutionary Radio on 96.1 FM on the dial in Oakland and streaming live online at www.pomagazine.org/radio. This is your host, well, rather co-host, D. Allen, Po poet, and with formerly houseless poverty scholar Mutiato Silencio and Tani, aka Poverty Scholar.
Yeah, this is PNN, not CNN, people. And no one is illegal on stolen land. And I can't catch a breath because I'm being swept to death. And these false borders are not my ethical orders. And no colonizer is going to tell me that my brothers and my sisters are illegal in this indigenous lands that they stole from the beginning. So yeah, this is PNN, not CNN, Poor People's Revolutionary Radio, unpimped, unsold, unbought, unplayed by any colonial system. But of course we exist on stolen land they like to call AmeriClan.
Now we stand here today because this same system is using our same taxpayer dollars to kick people on man-made colonial borders. Shame. We stand on stolen land in Yelamu of the Lishan people.
No one is illegal on stolen land. You just heard one of the speakers from a resistance march in occupied Yelamu, San Francisco on Monday. Today's broadcast of Po People's Radio is dedicated to all us indigenous poverty scholars from all sides of the false colonial borders, or as our beautiful heavenly brother poverty scholar Julio Chavez would say, we are houseless on both sides of the border who are barely surviving, just trying to work to support our families and stay housed in the settler colonial system and our resistance. We will speak with father, teacher, warrior, Frank Lara from Jobs for Justice in occupied Yelamu, who was part of a huge protest of this state terror called ICE yesterday, with thousands of warriors standing up and speaking up, including our familia at Po Magazine and so many more. And then speak with relatives from Tavangar. Then we will get a sweeps report from the struggle of houseless relatives to stay in their peaceful community in Ohlone Park.
Okay, look at y'all.
So you can bring it down. So yeah, that's some of the beautiful energia out on the streets of occupied Yelamu yesterday. That was just the first of many acts of resistance in solidarity with our relatives in Tavangar, aka so-called LA, who are getting constantly predated on by the state terror, this violence of so-called ICE and all of these other colonial monsters. But it's happening here too. We're just getting notice that right here in the Bay, in the territory the settlers like to call Concord, and in occupied Yelamu, Frisco, ICE is descending on these court trials that people are showing up to, because if you don't, you lose your fake ass legal status. And so, yeah, let's just say these cockroaches are crawling all across Turtle Island, and they're hell bent on incarcerating every poor person we can get. So we are blessed to have a warrior brother, a youth scholar, a badass media maker himself, but also a warrior in the front line, who is part of our family at the Vanguard, who are helping to create and manifest homefulness, because homelessness is another act of state terror, and we as houseless people are struggling with it every day. But we are blessed to have a beautiful warrior, media maker, Anthony, on with us today from Tavangar, LA, to talk about what's been going on down there. Anthony, welcome to Poor People's Radio.
Man, I'm happy to be with Poor Peoples, man. It's a blessing to talk to y'all and tell y'all what's going on in the streets, because the mainstream media, as they always do, report it wrong.
That part, always with the, with the we're violent and resistance and a certain way words that they use. So first of all, maybe just tell us a little bit about what's been happening over the last few days, and however you need to tell it. And I know that you are a truth warrior always, so please listen up, relatives.
Yeah, first off, I became a journalist out of frustration, out of sadness, and out of the warrior spirit. I was tired of seeing my community misrepresented, and through that misrepresentation, we die. Our existence is under attack, and so our narrative and the way we tell our stories is so important. And the way other people, where the mainstream media and the people that hate us spew the false narratives that goes along with the killing of us. So I wanted to simply just document the truth of what is really happening. I was in Compton the other day in Paramount, California. I got an alert because what people also need to know is that people are becoming more organized. People are frustrated, so we are banding together and finding these networks where we can find these systems where we're alerted when our communities are under attack. So we mobilize, not only just organize, but we mobilize, we move, and that's groups of people, individuals like myself, who just roll up and just capture the truth. And what we saw in Compton and Paramount is people resisting, people seeing their families being snatched, papers or no papers. If you were brown, you were under attack and you were getting taken. And so the people know, people don't even have to read books about about history, about being politically conscious. Their existence is already radical, and they're already under attack. So they pulled up and they fought back. And then we were, looked at as the violent ones because people threw rocks at the vans that were separating families. And I hate that narrative because they were reacting to violence. If you see, I have video of just total carnage from Border Patrol, from these ICE agents that were firing tear gas, and everything. And it's all from them. People had rocks and water bottles, and that's violent. So it is so much to talk about what's going on. Every 10 minutes, I get an alert of my neighbor, of the surrounding neighborhoods where there's ICE sightings, ICE raids, ICE sightings, and they're targeting graduations. They're targeting Home Depots where people are looking for work. I mean, this is the most inhumane thing you can see. And yes, I want to point out one more thing. We were in downtown yesterday, and we passed by Skid Row, where there's historic resistance there, where you have unhoused people living on the streets of LA. And I talked to a gentleman named Ronnie. He was unhoused, and he was down with the people. He was telling everybody he loved them, and he was telling about his experience about the police. To where, like, yeah, they want me killed. It's beautiful when there's a bunch of people here because I can be seen. But when everybody goes, the police want me dead. And so I think all these struggles are interconnected, where the main thing, and this is what my sister taught me, is family. It's all about family separation. And that's what they're trying to do. They try to continuously divide us. And we are all family. You know what I mean? Just because you ain't my so-called blood, we are all family. So they are trying to separate us. And so that's why it is the most inhumane stuff that is going on right now. But it's also, I'm seeing the most humanity I'm seeing out of these communities in LA that are standing up against these horrors.
Oh, I just wanted to pull out a couple things that you said. First of all, as people might notice, I rock my keffiyeh whenever I can, because we know that the struggles of houseless and poor people and indigenous people here is so much the same as our relatives in Palestine, free Palestine, Sudan, Haiti, West Papua, Kashmir, and right here, right? And so I just want to name that even what you just described, which is that y'all had water bottles and rocks that you got off the ground. Hello. Right? How does that sound like? That sounds like our relatives in Palestine, and who they call it a war when they have troops and tanks and Uzis and bombs, and relatives there have a rock that they pull off the
Welcome to
strand.
police militarization.
That part. And so I just want to name that there is absolutely a connection. I'm also really thankful that you brought up our relatives in Skid Row. We know that, first of all, me and my mom stayed down there when we were houseless in LA. We also know that right now, the violence of sweeping humans like we're trash is never ending, right? And so the piece that our relatives see those connections themselves is beautiful to me. I want to say I absolutely know. The other thing that's never talked about is that most of, well, not say most, but let me just say a big amount of our relatives who cross these false borders, and Iba Baba to Luis Tamaj, to Luis Gongarapat, to Almirca Perez Lopez, end up on the street after they work in those bougie kitchens, washing those rich people dishes and working in those slave wages, and they can't even afford the rent. So they end up houseless and caught in the same sweeps. And I want to note that in Lenape territory, they came into the homeless shelters to pick our houseless bodies up as part of their sweep, right? So you see the connections there are also very important. I also don't think enough people are making those connections. We do need to. We poor people all over Mama Earth. That's what Julio Chavez, and of course he's transitioned. I love you, Julio, in his Teatro de los Pobres that Dee cited. He would name that he was houseless on both sides of the colonizer border. And in his indigenous Mayan, he ended up here houseless, trying to so-called make it better and support his family back home, and couldn't afford the rent here. So I just wanted to have you, Anthony, talk a little bit more about some of the details. I mean, I don't have to get into great detail, but just in terms of when I know that they were in downtown LA, they've been and there's that whole thing that we see on corporate media about, the so-called people fighting back with our water bottles and our rocks, whatever. But I know that also relatives will run over. I know that people were circling those ICE vehicles. I know that resistance blocked some of those moves. I don't know if you could just name a little bit more about that.
Oh yeah. I mean, where I was in Compton and Paramount, because people fought back, they disrupted their operations, and that slowed down more ICE raids. So people were taking the hits. As people were inhaling tear gas, as people were taking rubber bullets to the chest, to the head, they were taking not only those hits, but they were taking those hits so they can disrupt the ICE raids and their ICE operations, because they had to focus their energy on us. And so that's why it's so emotional, because and then it's and then you'll go through that day, and then on the media they'll just report that we're violent criminals, and that, but it's the most beautiful it's the most beautiful thing I'm seeing in my own eyes, when this community is just getting fired on, but what they're actually sacrificing. I was there yesterday at the detention center,
Say something.
and there was kids from ninth grade there, kicking the vans, blocking the vans. And as a journalist, I want to put stuff out there, but I also don't want to incriminate my folks out there. So it's hard to not show the truth that's going on, because we also have to censor ourselves, because we have to be worried about the narrative out there that we put out, and then we also have to protect our kids.
That
But they
part.
are fierce warriors, ninth graders with more heart
Mm.
than all of these border patrol, ICE agents, soulless
Oh.
humans. They are they're 6 foot buff, soulless men who stand for nothing. They can actually learn from the people who are standing up with rocks, with water bottles, with their voices, with megaphones. They anything they can find to
Mm.
fight back. They are the true people that are like holding us down with for humanity, and
Oh.
it's just I see these border patrol. I went up to them. I don't like to talk because I'm a journalist, but I had to tell them. And the thing that they told me is take one more step and I'm gonna take you. And so
Mm.
that's what they do. They just take. And I'm not scared a lot. I'm not gonna lie. I've seen a lot, but to not say I wasn't afraid, I would be lying because I saw hatred in their eyes. They don't see us as human, and a lot of them look like me, and that's the disheartening people. A lot of them are parents, are so-called immigrants, are so-called migrants, like, and they're self-hating themselves. We had the National Guard yesterday. Some of them have baby faces. One of them was teary-eyed. And I don't want to humanize these folks because they're on the wrong side, but it's just looking at your own people. And I wish they can just have a heart and realize that they have a choice. They don't have to do this.
That part. That part. Dee, did you want to say something?
Those youngsters, those high school age children, the ninth graders that you mentioned earlier, that you said had more heart than those ICE agents and those National Guardsmen that they went up against. They know who their enemy is. They know that that enemy will, with badges and with this paramilitary gear, will be coming after them someday,
Mm.
and that their relatives also happen to be targets of these ICE raids because they don't have quote unquote legal papers.
Right. Exactly. Mo,
You
did you
know,
want? Oh, go ahead. Go ahead, Evan.
Um, yeah, and I talked to a lot of the kids yesterday, and they're from Rampart. They're from these neighborhoods
Mm.
in LA. So this is nothing new. They
Right.
get profiled, they get snatched up on a regular basis. This is
Yes, they
nothing new.
know
So
who
we're
their
almost
enemy
we're
is.
almost prepared for
Yeah.
these raids because we've been through these raids.
That part.
And now it's just the world is kind of like opening their eyes and maybe seeing it, but the narrative still, we still have to work on the narrative because there's people in the streets of LA who even show up and are just saying, hey, I don't agree with family separation, but the violent protests and throwing rocks at the fans, I don't agree with. That stuff holds back our movement. It actually continues to divide us. People on the ground, I appreciate people that care, but we have to understand that people that are throwing the rocks are not the violent people, are not the ones that are separating our families. They're actually trying to keep our families together. So
Thank you.
people that are going out there, I know I'm preaching to the choir because I know y'all get it, but it's frustrating because the energy is drained by
Mm.
having to reiterate and constantly humanize ourselves to be like, hey, we are not the violent ones. We are just trying to protect and defend our communities. That is exhausting. We're already getting fired on by ICE agents. We're already getting fired on by the sheriffs. We're getting fired on by
Getting
CHP. We're
harassed by
getting
the
fired
cops.
on by LAPD. We're
Yeah.
getting fired on by everybody. We
Right.
can't be fired on by our own. We have to be in solidarity.
Mm. I wanted to ask Mood. I know he's hard at work at the engineering, but he specifically talks about the terrifying aspect that our own communities are the ones polarizing and harassing and sweeping our communities. Did you want to say anything? Mo?
Well, or just again, thank you, Ann, for being here. Speaking the truth, truth to power. Again, what sometimes corporate media doesn't cover. Yeah, just the same thing as we talked about here in Ho Chi Minh in Oakland. A lot of times the people who are policing us in encampments in communities is black and brown folks who are on the wrong side, like you say. And but again, we see that also in these raids. And again, the song that people want to say is, well, this is people with families and they're doing their job and all of this. But for us, it's like, what is our undocumented migrant people are getting?
Mm.
Well, where is our, American dream? Where's our, piece of the pie? Right? So we are supposed to just take being in prison, being persecuted, and just it's almost going back into like the Bracero program when they were used to hunt, migrant people.
Mm.
So shame on this administration and this police state, but also understanding too, and maybe Anne can speak a little about this, about also about the tactic. This is definitely a tactic of fear, a tactic of oppression, of repression, and there is no accident. I mean, I almost felt that this president was waiting, couldn't even wait for the occasion to bring National Guards.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
Oh yeah. Oh totally. Did you
Yeah.
want to comment on that? Go ahead, hon.
Yeah, well, yeah, they're. I guess the Marines are already here. There's footage of the Marines that were last night that were coming here. So it's all just to put fear in ourselves. And I saw a video of actually like somebody do a blockade himself of the Marine convoy or whatever. And so like these stories too don't get into the mainstream, but there are groups of people and individuals just doing whatever they can and risking stuff to block these things because they know how horrible things can happen. I mean, things already are horrible, but they're just trying to lessen the harm. Yeah, a lot of these tactics are supposed to are trying to make us afraid, but honestly I think they're creating warriors.
Yeah.
Because I saw yesterday, I saw Crips, I saw gangsters, I saw down white folks, I saw there's so many people because also too LA paints the narrative where it's just, oh, it's just the Mexicans out there. It's everybody. LA is very diverse. You got Guatemalans, you got Puerto Ricans, you
Yeah.
have everybody out there. You got older. I was right there. Yeah,
Okay.
that was right there. I'm literally about to put that footage out. But yeah, this
That's what's up.
I
That's
want to
what's
say
up.
one more thing too.
Yeah, please, Anthony.
And my sister actually taught me this too. My sister teaches me a lot. But unhoused people on the streets are really on the front lines of the revolution.
Oh,
They learn how to defend their own communities, feed each other, and fight back. And so what we're seeing is almost like the future is these encampments that are really communities banding together and fighting back these oppressive forces that are now infiltrating other vulnerable marginalized communities. And so we have to learn from people that we often turn a blind eye to and don't even acknowledge their existence. We actually have to look towards people that are organizing on the streets, that are defending their existence, because police brutality and sweeps is a genocide, and not just in my community, but communities in Oakland, all over the place. But I think we do have to look at our own neighborhoods and create we have to fight back in our own neighborhoods, because also what I'm seeing is when we mass mobilize, it's cool, and if we're strategic with it, we can do something with cool, but they're infiltrating neighborhoods all over the place. So today, I'm still learning. I went to go patrol my neighborhoods. I went to go to the Home Depots. I went to the graduations, and I'm just looking for ICE,
okay. That's what's up.
because I'm pissed and I can't do nothing when I'm just sitting. I have to. We have to go outside. We have, if you can, especially me. I have my papers. I have to. There's certain sacrifices you have to risk, and it's not even a sacrifice. It's like it's a privilege to do that.
Okay.
You know.
That part. Oh, wow. I'm so glad you gave voice to that. I mean, I will say that, as someone who spent most of my life on the street, one of the things I always teach is, we folks who live outside are impacted first and worst by all of this terror, right? Whether it be climate terrorism, whether it be police terror, whether it be hate, and I think that's what's really important. And we even have later in the broadcast, we are talking with the relative who's in a community in a park named after First Nations people, where the neighbors are calling the city endlessly to try to eject, evict, and harass and erase these folks, right? And to the point where, who's our enemy, who's our comrade? We know that we only got each other on the street, The real talk. And so we need to find and lift up all of the comrades who are going to stand with us. That's the whole point of homefulness. We know that we have to live a different way in occupied land.
Mm.
These lives we've been taught aren't sustainable for anybody. And so I just appreciate you so much, Anthony. I mean, Anthony's part of the badass posse that we're working with at Homefulness Devangar. We appreciate you so much. And also, you know, stay safe, warrior, because we need your body too. And as my Mama D would say, you know, you have that youth, that privilege, that health. Definitely we need it. But we also need you at home too. So stay safe. Keep on the lookout. Don't let anybody take you down, bruh. Please. All power to the people.
All power. Can I say one more thing?
Please go ahead.
I want to say that this movement is a real movement of love. Know that one of the most loving things that is going on right now is a youngster picking up a rock and throwing it right to a white van that is carrying their families and maybe someone as a person that they don't even know, but they understand that their struggle is interconnected. That is love. It's even they don't even know whose family that is. But it is their family. So that is the most loving thing that I'm seeing on the streets is a youngster picking up whatever he can and throwing it at these vans. I just want to, and that is love. That is not violence. That is love.
Okay. Oh, Mateo. Thank you, Anthony. And
Appreciate
thank you
y'all.
for your life too and your love and being a good brother and a good son. Oh,
Right on,
Mateo.
brother.
Love
right.
y'all.
Good
I
to
love
see
you,
you,
babe.
brother.
We'll talk
Peace.
to you real soon. You're listening and watching Poor News Network. That's Poor People's Radio, PNN, not CNN, on PNN KEXU. As well, you can get our podcasts on SoundCloud, Spotify, wherever you like that. And for us, it ain't about any kind of profit or trying to make clicks or money or any of that ish. It's so that we can get voices of poor people out on the world, because we know that as poor people, we have poverty scholarship. Real talk. And I think there needs to be a little bit more of that. We're going to watch this one other video real quick of one of the protests in Frisco. The other one with the brother speaking, the face crack one. Just the one I added, the face crack one at the end. Yeah, I think that's it. This brother was saying some powerful, so he's from the labor movement.
And that gang in Washington are inflicting violence on millions and millions of people. Their attack on the immigrant communities is not really meant to drive all immigrants out. Because if all the immigrant workers left, the economy would collapse. Their idea is if they can deport some, they can terrorize into submission everyone, all immigrants. And that they can exploit to the greatest limit those who remain here.
Okay.
We say this, that
Angel baby, my angel baby. Ooh, I love you, I do. No one could love you like I do. The lowrider lecturer presents his thesis on the back seat of a Chevy Impala. The words sail through the sky and out the narrow institutional school window, refusing to be caught by the mandate of white supremacist tests. The story that only some people can be teachers while others are set for arrest. The Cholo Docta has letters behind his name that sway and sashay to the sounds of war and Frankie Valli. When I hear the Cholo Docta, my corazon skips a beat, because he teaches that the knowledge is within us. Our corazones, nuestra almas, puro amor. Our hands, our feet, our work, our struggle, la vida loca, and the institution can meet. The indigenous doctor brings medicine to the minds of all of us caught in the trauma of colonization and Gregorian time. To my Boricua ghetto fabulous mama who was told she was nothing and could be nothing and no matter what, refused to believe their pinche lies. The migrante doctor is your mama, your uncle, your abuela, your tío, your street corner preacher, your gardener, your dishwasher, your lavaplatero, and lives in your own mind. The migrante lecturer delivers lecturas in poesía and música and banda and prayer and dreams. The migrante lecturer is busy. He and she are mixing their trajectories and developing their newest canons while they wash your dishes, mow your lawn, and make your burrito with beans. They are having their think tanks and their test prep sessions in front of the Home Depot. And if you want to pass the test called life, you better listen carefully to their lecturas because they don't have time to repeat them or say them twice. Between holding down 3 and 4 jobs, caregiving for your baby, struggling with false borders and fake notions of who is a scholar and who is a teacher for life. So that poem is dedicated to my mama and to all the warriors who are dealing with this moment right now, who are dealing with this endless struggle of just trying to stay alive. We have the blessing next of bringing in Frank Lara. I think he's on his way in. And I know that he's on the front line of so many movements, not the least of which is he's a teacher, a truth teller, someone who I'm blessed to say also was one of the teachers of my son and so many of our youth at Decolonize Academy, a liberation education movement that we are only able to do because those houseless people built Homefulness, a homeless people's solution to homelessness. But Frank is in the movement always to make sure that our relatives are heard from all sides of the false borders, that rights are given to workers, and that the young people are safe. Frank Lara, welcome back to Poor People's Radio.
Hola, muchas gracias. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you for your words, Tiny. A lot of respect for the deep, deep work that you're doing as a father myself, as a parent, having to raise a little one. I know what it means to live by your ideals. I'm hoping one day I can do the same.
Oh, and you already do, bro. That's beautiful. So maybe you can tell listeners a little bit about, I mean, you've been working for a minute because we know that the struggle with these false borders didn't begin yesterday. But of course, we're on the street going everywhere, anywhere to stand up for our relatives, dealing with this pinche, colonial terror called ICE. But maybe you could tell listeners about a little bit of the history of the work around these false borders and the work that you've been doing and then where we're at now from your perspective.
No, and I appreciate that. And it's always hard to start like history because it's so continuous, right? And so like, where do we go back? But if we're talking about sort of what's happening today with the Trump administration, the second Trump administration, a deteriorating empire that is no longer really providing a future for the vast majority of people, where the economy is just like dying. There's no real way out, as much as we're seeing them transfer all this wealth from the poorest of the poor with the cuts of the basic Medicare, basic things that people used to have to survive in this country is now being transferred over to the wealthy. At the same time, they need a scapegoat to release and give excuse, right? And so on a day-to-day basis, this government is using the worst of the racism that has always existed, the xenophobia, the nationalism, the attacks on LGBTQ students, on anybody who's different, And whether it's papers, not papers, we know that that's not really the discussion. It's just like, how do we instill fear in the other? And so what we're seeing is right now that excused by this particular government and also just in general, right? Like the Democrats have also deported more people and it continues to rise. So this is a general approach by what we can call the ruling class, the wealthy, that instead of them, they wouldn't be honest, but instead of being able to actually call them out for the fact that they can no longer maintain this for-profit greedy system that always has them wanting for more, that we're going to target and blame the most oppressed, the people who work day to day, who don't have those benefits, right? Like nothing like work from home, nothing with a salary, no benefit, no social security. They pay taxes. They give everything to the system with their labor, and yet are now being targeted. And I think, so that's where we are in the current moment, in that an excuse for the system to kind of preserve itself is attacking immigrants. But what we saw in Los Angeles, I was there on Sunday, the day after the ICE raided, again, these marketplaces. These are marketplaces that even myself, I grew up in with my family, had a store, and we would go into, to downtown LA to do the fashion district, to buy stuff. And what they were doing this time was just going in and stealing workers. And this is on top of this campaign that we've seen now for several months of terrorizing a division of families. And I think people really got to the point where they drew a line. And so we're seeing that resistance. And I think it's important to offer support for that anger and justified frustration, because just like we saw during the George Floyd uprising in 2020, like we often see in the anti-police brutality movement, is that there's only so much violence you can take on your community before you start fighting back. And so I think that's where we're all kind of holding, myself as a unionist, the vice president of the teachers union here in San Francisco, other unions, right? They incarcerated, they brutalized the president of the largest union in California, David Huerta. And while the unions are highlighting that particular thing, I think all of us are pointing to the fact that this isn't about papers or legal status. This is repression against the people, and we got to stand up.
Oh, so true. And thank you for that framework. I think that people don't understand enough that this is not a moment that's isolated, nor is it even specific to the orange colonial cracker king, right, who thinks they're the ruler of the world, whatever, but more just a continuation, right? So tell us, your perspective. I know that you've probably gotten the same alerts as I have in terms of the fact that they're already in the Bay. They already picked up families and children last week. I'm actually trying to work to raise some resources for one of the mamas right now. And we also have, apparently there's more shown up at Concord and San Francisco just in the last couple hours. Yeah. So I wonder, just in terms of your perspective on where we're at now and resistance around that. And I know that we had that beautiful march. There were literally thousands of people out there yesterday. Just your thoughts.
And the organizers last night, right? Like within 24 hours, organized. One of the media outlets was 5,000. The organizers are saying it was 9,000 people. It felt like that. It felt like a beautiful march. You and I, Tiny, we've been in the streets a lot, and especially after COVID, which is such a brutal time, there seemed to be kind of like this break. And it's been nice to go out back into the streets and see the folks we've been working with over time, but also to see that next generation. There's a whole set of young folks. And I, myself as an educator, I always like to say, the youth, in Spanish is la juventud no es el futuro de nada, sino el presente de todo. In English, it just means the youth is not the future of anything, but the present of everything. And there's now a generation. There's now a new grouping of people wanting to take to the streets. And while some of us have been in the movement, right, in reaction to the Oscar Grant killing, in reaction to the Kenneth Harding killing, so many of these is brutalized things. When we won the TPS, when we won DACA, all this stuff, right? That now seems like history to these new folks
Yeah.
who are just coming in and witnessing and wanting to fight now. And I say it's important to take to the streets. All actions are important, but what LA has inspired is people to come out and show the solidarity together. Today in San Francisco, I believe 3 people have been detained, and immediately people took to the streets. So the courage of LA, the fearlessness of the young people, and then the success of last night gives courage to people to be like, I'm not going to take this anymore.
Right.
And we want to encourage that, because to be honest, this isn't a fight that's going to be won, and you know this, Tiny, from how hard it is to build a project that you can preserve and hold on your own, and then to try and transfer that project into a bigger scale. It's always a challenge because of everything you have to do just to hold this thing. So we do need to talk about, how do we bring in thousands, millions of people into the street to defend, because they may have the tanks, they may have the armored vehicles. What they don't have is the masses of people. And so we have to lean on that. We have to depend on that. We have to encourage people, give people the bravery, because not everyone does. People just, in the most part, want peace, want to just live their life, even as exploited as they may be. But not, I think now, especially with social media, seeing, the genocide against Palestinians, seeing the violence carried out by multiple administrations, seeing the fact that there's no future. I mean, if you're a young person, I know like some of us get called millennials, at least for my generation, we're like, we had seen no future. We saw the 2008 economic crash. We've seen the wars, the never ending wars. For me, if you ask me, I know this system has no future. But for that next generation, that's not even a question. There's just nothing there. So how, and I think we have to find ways to tell them, like, you have to fight for something different. This isn't right. This isn't just, but it's going to require your participation to change it.
Oh, I wanted to, and I want to make sure if Moot or Dee want to say anything, but I wanted to just come in. But I just want to say one thing, because we just had a brother, one of our youth poverty scholars from Tavanga, LA, that we're working with right now to build a homefulness down there. And it's a whole thing. Yeah. He was on, because he's on the front line. He's right out there with everybody. And he was talking about 9th graders being politicized and energized and standing up and being the ones who were throwing the water bottles at the ice trucks while their families were being taken, right? Or their neighbors or somebody.
These are children, high school age children, who know that someday, sometime down the line, those same ICE agents may be coming after them.
Right? Exactly.
And assume that they have no papers.
That part. And I was just, because, as educators, right, which I also am, and, we work with young people all the time, and that whole notion about they have no future. I mean, there isn't a future, right? There isn't a future within a capitalist framework.
Correct.
Right? But I think there's a future within a liberation framework. And this is what we teach our young people, that the solution and the big thing is not hoard as many bloodstained dollars as you can. That story's old. That's white cracker people story. That's settler colonial stealing father story. Right? But our liberation is actually our future. And I'm just curious, sir, in terms of you as an educator, how you translate that to young people. I think it's really important, especially as we're talking about bringing more families in and folks.
That's a beautiful thing you said, right? Like, I think the reality for me in this, I'm always hopeful. I'm hopeful in our people. I'm hopeful in our struggles. I'm hopeful from last night. So once you become committed to this movement, you're hopeful because you're seeing the future being built in front of you. You see it in the mutual aid. You see it in the communities of folks being built, of taking care of each other, of the words, of the, so I guess, and you said something that really made me pause. I guess we have to be careful among the young people, because we should never say you have no future. You can't be young. You can't be young and be told you have no future,
Right.
because you create the future. You know what I mean? You're that generation. So I guess in our space, maybe I say that, but with young people, that's not even their energy. They're living, they're breathing, they're doing the thing. They're super resilient despite the struggles. Even ourselves probably have our own struggles that we remember when we were 20, when we were 15, right? We still carry that trauma in our body, and there's talk about a lot of healing that's necessary. But when you're living it, though, you have the energy of young people. You have the love of your community. You have the want to get out there and be more. And so I don't think with young people, the conversation is more about, you don't deserve this. Like you said, how you give them the framing, the history. Because the other thing with young people, I think, which is hard, is that you don't know if you're right. And you're constantly told you're making mistakes, and like every step you have to doubt yourself. So how do we give them the confidence in saying, as people who've been in the movement, saying, don't worry about that. You are right in your heart, knowing that this is wrong, that this isn't fair. And how do we empower you? How do we maybe stand by you, lift you up, make sure that you're the speaker, prepare you as young people to speak that word, so that you take ownership of this and you find your way and your reality in this moment. Because for us, like, we're committed to it already, but it shouldn't be a commitment from like an individual, like you said, like about me lifting up my career. That doesn't matter. Like myself, like, we're good. Get the young people, get that new generation out there to take ownership of this future, which we're saying is their future to own.
Oh, that part. Ooh, Frank, so beautiful. Well, I know that we're coming to the end, but I wanted to ask you, and I know things are insane. Just in terms of thoughts that you have that you want to let people leave with, in terms of like next steps. I know there's going to be more marches every day. We're asking for folks to show up, but anything that you want to let listeners and viewers know.
I have a ton of respect for your collective project and your collective vision in living every single day, despite the obstacles, despite the constant pressures to do something else. And so the only thing I'll say to the folks listening is that it's we don't really realize how much we're overwhelmed by that propaganda of that system, starting first and foremost from this idea of that I am an individual, that I myself carry power, that I do. And I say we have to move to that collective view where I am simply a grain of sand of a larger project. Right? I am simply the drop of water in this broader ocean that is the real power, which is us, which is the masses of people. Because oftentimes when we're not trying to build something broader, we then start becoming insular. We start thinking that we have ownership of something when we don't. What we have are maybe an ownership of our own values, of our own commitment, but we attach ourselves to the values of something better, that liberation that you're saying, that is a long-term project. It's a project that we should be humbled towards, and that it should be a project that is absolutely welcoming to everyone, with all capacities, with all identities, with all backgrounds, right? And so I think for those of us who are committed to that, we promise to make that space where you come in and out, but more importantly, we need people to commit to that collective project.
Oh, thank you so much, Frank. So much love for you and your baby. And there you were, being a papa with the baby in the stroller, being a badass padre. So much love, Frank. And I know that we'll see you in the streets very soon.
Okay, muchas gracias. Muchos saludos. And again, thank you for all you do.
Oh, Mateo. You're listening and watching Poor People's Radio, PNNKEXU 96.1 FM on the dial, and right here on these live digital streets. We know that, unfortunately, the sweeps of migrante relatives is something that us houseless people deal with every day. Every day. Right here in the Bay, in occupied Uchun, aka so-called progressive Berkeley, in a park named after the first peoples, we have relatives, houseless relatives, who have been humbly living sleeping, taking care of their community. I don't use the word encampment because that's a military industrial complex word. That's what those Marines are that are moving on us right now. But a community that is self-determined in a park called Ohlone Park being threatened with immediate removal, erasure, and sweeps to nowhere. We want to pull up a brother from Ruthless Radio, a reporter, Moot. That's the last thing we'll be sharing today, to ask folks to support these relatives. So again, as we heard from both of our guests, our struggles are connected. Let's not act like they're different. Please, family, please don't do cherry picking of your movement work, because that's not movement liberation. What have they been messing with you? Have they been constantly like harassing you? What's going on?
It's an everyday occurrence for me, at least, and it's been tough. I've been getting a lot of things stolen, broken, and things like that, and it's in weird ways that that's beyond description. I'd be like, "What the heck is going on?" But and I just like a safe, secure.
We just want some housing, right?
Yeah, most definitely.
That's the point. What the F? And I know these systems, they don't really provide us with housing. Like, we get referrals to nothing.
That's true, because that's what I'm trying to figure out, what's going to take place really soon with this situation. Because I got everything that I guess I need as far as this ID, all the things I done built all these things, but I should have been had housing a long time ago.
Thank you.
I don't understand why I don't have it.
Mm.
And a lot of other people got hotels and their places, and I'm like, I would love to have a place like that too, as well.
And if they do come out and sweep us tomorrow, where will we go, right?
Exactly.
That part. Any last words you got for folks, son?
I hope that we all be able to figure it out.
Okay.
And have a more safe, secure environment.
Oh, Mateo.
And
thank you.
Have a place to stay.
Okay. Thank you, babe. So yeah, that's Ohlone Park, named after, I might add, the extra rub with that. Sorry, we're having an issue. Okay. The extra rub with that is Ohlone Park. Imagine the nerve of calling it a park named after First Peoples and erasing houseless peoples. When our sister Karina tells us that in the time of her ancestors, they didn't even have a concept of homelessness. You lived outside in your tent or in your teepee or in the different spaces and places of sacred, life. We all lived different things. But this tagging and naming and criminalizing and fetishizing is really just another part of occupation. So there we are. And I want to just let people know that there is an ask today, right now, to show up at the Concord. I'm going to let people know really quickly. Concord, the main courthouse, that's where people are being taken. But also there is at 100 Montgomery Street, ICE arrests happening as we speak. So if you happen to be in Yelamu, 100 Montgomery Street is a direct ask for folks to show up. And then in Concord, it's Concord Immigration Court at 1055 Gateway Boulevard in Concord. Again, they're asking people to show up now and to interfere, to slow down, to surround as these agents of terror are coming into our communities with the sole purpose of separating families, of devastating people, and destroying humans.
And whenever possible, bring your cell phones and your cameras, and while you're surrounding them, document everything that you see.
Ashe. Also, to let other folks know that in the Fruitvale tonight at 6 o'clock, they are asking for folks to show up for an action honoring and lifting up resistance. Again, that's in Occupied Uchun, Oakland, at the Fruitvale Bar area at 6 o'clock Tuesday tonight, June 10th. And then this weekend, there's a big resistance. What did you say that it was?
On Saturday, June 14th, as it is every year here in the USA, is a patriotic holiday known as Flag Day. Not something I celebrate myself, but the holiday exists. And in connection with this holiday, there is a nationwide day of protest against the Trump regime.
Gotcha. And also, as we know, this weird colonial cracker king, aka president, you know what, is it's his birthday, and so he's having.
That's the ironic part about all this. It's two horrible holidays in one.
Exactly, and so he's having this bizarre, fiefdom, coronation, bizarreness, and I think if nothing else, hit the streets for our relatives. There'll be actions. There'll be things happening. Please stay tuned. Please stay involved. And also just to let people know that Poor Magazine, because we're on the street every day, and I'm not going to lie, we're human and we're tired. And so Poor Magazine will be not creating media for 10 days. We'll be missing 1 week of this radio after this Friday. So don't worry, we'll be back. But as many of my elders have told me, you can't pour from an empty cup. So I just want to remind people to take care of themselves. I have a lot of trouble doing that, and I have a lot of revolutionary guilt at even taking a day off. I'm not going to lie, because I've been struggling my whole life. But anyway, I love all of you so much. We love you, and we will be back and hit the streets and see you tonight and see you tomorrow and see you every day, because this struggle ain't going away. It's our resistance that makes it different. And this is
So that's all for this broadcast of Poe People's Radio. You can follow us on Facebook, X, or Instagram at Poe Magazine, at Poverty Scholar, and Poe News Network on YouTube. You can also get this complete Poe People's Radio podcast with all the interviews and conversations or any of our previous archive shows on iTunes, now called Apple Music, Spotify, iHeart, or wherever you get your podcasts. All power to the people.
And before we cut off, I just got messages from the people who are watching, and I just want to name them. Thank you, family, for watching and listening. John Lozano said there were ice over here at 35th and International. Ron said that I was in West Oakland about an hour ago, and there was a guy in an undercover car and was taking pictures of people. Gabe, and we love you, Gabe. We need to post anytime we see ice in our streets to inform our community, take pics if possible. Also, protest is going to downtown Oakland, marching through Fruitvale as well today. And we appreciate you, relatives. Please keep tuning in. We can't do it without all of us. Oh,
break out those phones and break out those video cameras.
all power to the people.
All power to the people.
All power to the people.